Everybody, welcome back to the Insiders Lounge. Today we have another episode. Brendan, thank you for joining me and feel free to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Chad, and thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. My name is Brendan Shaw, current assistant coach with the Vancouver Whitecaps first team, formerly with the second team of the Whitecaps in MLS Next Pro. I spent a year in FC Edmonton of the Canadian Premier League before that, and was also an assistant coach previously with Simon Fraser University, a school here in Burnaby, British Columbia, the only school from Canada that plays in the NCAA, the American Collegiate School System. And before that was a coach all around in different youth clubs and in the community here, and former player of SFU. So yeah, happy to be here with you today, and thanks for having me.
Of course. We'll get into that coaching journey and your time now with Vancouver. But first, let's go back to your first footballing experience. What are the first memories that you have as a young kid growing up, either playing football or just some of the memories you had around the game?
I started very young, as most do, and haven't looked back. Love football as a little kid. My dad was a player, so it's always been around me when I was a little kid, going to the park, watching him. He was actually drafted by the Whitecaps a long time ago in the old NASL days, and then him and a lot of my other relatives actually played at Simon Fraser. And so it's funny that I eventually ended up there, and then also with the Whitecaps. So, but yeah, as a young kid playing in little gravel parks around the Lower Mainland, and picking up a ball, going to games all around because all my relatives were part of it. My mom comes from an Irish family who came over when she was young, and so all of my family has always been around the game. Watching Celtic games as a kid, all of this. So yeah, I took it on as a very young, I don't know, 2-3 years old, and haven't looked back, I guess. Yeah.
No, I love it. It definitely runs in the family then, for sure. Let's get into your educational background. So you have the bachelor's degree in business, if I'm right, and then the master's degree in sports management. So I'm curious, I always like diving in to see, first of all, how your experience was in school, especially with the balance of playing and being a student athlete at the same time, but also how that knowledge from then is now worked into your current day-to-day work, and how you're able to relay that knowledge either to other players or just certain things that you do in your work currently.
Yeah, for sure. My undergraduate degree, as you said, it was in business. And at the time, probably because I didn't know what I wanted to do, I was so invested in soccer and wanted to just get to school and get playing. So business is kind of an area where it can go so many different ways. And I thought I'll figure it out as I get into it. But yeah, in my school, and one of the reasons I really enjoyed it was I found a way to kind of connect everything I did and every class I took in business, and try to really relate it to soccer in a way. And I was already coaching at the time that I was studying for my degree, and I focused on human resource management. I had a minor in curriculum and instruction through education because I was thinking, oh, maybe I'd be a teacher. So a lot of the stuff that I was doing was so relevant to coaching already, and working with people, hiring, screening, training employees, these kind of things. So I basically just took a lot of what I did and tried to relate it to a soccer context because that's what I was more interested in. And that was the kind of strategy where I could study for school and try to use it practically when I was coaching after school. And it was a tool where I could motivate myself to read the theories and the textbooks and study for the tests, but try to relate it in a practical way to what I was doing at nighttime with what I enjoyed doing on the pitch. So yeah, my undergraduate degree, it's of course still very relevant today because I work with people every day, whether it's the staff in the different departments in our club, the players, and communicating with them. My master's I took over COVID in a school through Spain. So it was nice because I was able to do it at times when it didn't clash with my coaching. But also it gave me a kind of insight to, areas in sport in general that maybe I didn't recognize or appreciate fully as a coach. You just think about the X's and the O's and the coaching part of it, but learning about sponsorship and digital marketing, sales, all these types of things that make a club work, especially on the business side, help me appreciate that further, and really helps me today when I work with a bigger club like the Whitecaps, where this is all around me, all these different things off the field that it's nicer to know than not know, and you can appreciate what they do on a day to day side. So yeah, everything I've done up to now with my schooling, every day I run into different ways to use it. And then the educational side on the soccer side as well with my different coaching licenses. I did a lot of them locally early when I was young with BC Soccer, Canadian Soccer Association, but also going over to Europe and doing my UEFA B, my UEFA C, my UEFA B, UEFA A with the Irish Football Association, and taking a lot of that into what I do day to day here as well. So yeah, everything is very relevant and useful to now.
And then I wanted to get into, I always get asked this question, like, what is youth soccer like in Canada? How does it work? How does it run? So you've obviously been able to grow up playing in it and coaching in it as well. But
Right.
let's go back to the playing days first. Can you tell us just a little bit about your youth soccer experience, kind of how far you got even in terms of your career in university as well, so that people can get a glance at like how youth soccer actually works in Canada?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for the most part, I was a player in and out of the Whitecaps Academy system, some feeder clubs that feed into the academy system. Locally, I signed on with Simon Fraser University, the school here. They play in Division Two of the NCAA, so got a scholarship and played there. Uh, but really, it's a short, not much of a playing career. I still jump in from time to time with the second team or the first team in training when a guy goes down and they need a player. But yeah, mostly my experiences with playing were locally, and then through the off seasons of collegiate soccer, through different men's leagues, different played in the PDL. So the now is I guess USL 2,
Mm.
down in the States with the with different groups there, kind of keep myself fit when I was in the off season of university. But not a large playing career, and I started coaching very very young when I was still playing, um, which was I guess a unique route, a different pathway, because I was never really bound to play professional and always wanted to stay in the game, and took an interest in soccer from very young, and had a lot of good coaches as a player that I took to and influenced me, and so started coaching very young and quickly transitioned away from playing and into coaching. Even when I was playing at the university level. So
Yeah, I actually wanted to get into that transition. Did you have inspiration or what were the first questions or things that you were interested in that made you want to get into coaching? Because there's obviously a few different avenues that you can get into if you want to work in the soccer world, but coaching is unique, and I think you have to have the right personality and strengths for that. So what got you first interested in coaching?
yeah, my dad was a coach in the youth soccer scene here in British Columbia, and so he was a heavy influence with me. He coached me, and so even after games, when you have like, has most youth players, you get in the car and your dad or mom tells you, "Hey, you could have done this better. You did this well." We ended up spending a lot of the times talking about the game and the tactics of it, or hey, how'd this guy do? How'd this player do? And so from an early age, I was discussing things related to a coach would review a game or something like this. And like I said, I had a lot of good coaches as a kid who really made me take an interest in the side of it. And so when I was in high school, I was coaching high school teams. When I was in university, I was coaching at the club that I played with as a kid, with Mountain United. It's now a Burnaby FC of the BCSPL. It's like a feeder club to our Whitecaps Academy. And yeah, so from very early on, I was influence from my father mostly, but also a lot of good coaches around me that made me want to stay in the game and have these discussions and influence players and in a positive way develop players to push on and do better things. So yeah, when I was 19, 20 years old, I was already on the pitch running sessions with U13, 14, 15, all the way up to U18, high performance players who were looking to pursue university careers, some professional careers, and push on from there. So I was exposed from it early, but yeah, I would say a big part of it was my father and good coaches around me that really inspired me to want to keep doing that and get into coaching.
So then, yeah, speaking on that journey, can we get into sort of the different levels that you were able to coach at, and then also how those opportunities came about, whether it was through networking or maybe you met someone through another club or you were working with others that moved on and you sort of followed them. Can we get into sort of the insights on that?
Yeah, for sure. When I started kind of finishing my playing career in university, I took on a kind of player coach role with the university I was at. And that quickly changed to just coaching. And so as I was coaching the university team in the kind of afternoons, I would then take off right away and get into coaching youth soccer at a good level, while I was playing and while I was coaching at the university level with motivated, talented, U16, U17 players. And coaching youth soccer in British Columbia, it was a good experience for me as a young coach because I got on the ground. I was running sessions a lot. That practical kind of training helped me a lot of the time prepare and get reps as a coach, running sessions, working with players, going through all these scenarios and dilemmas you have as a coach at an early age. So, my day was filled with it. I would coach in the morning. I would go to school. I would do my studies. I would then either play or coach with the university team. And then I'd head off and do a few sessions at night every day. So 7 days a week, I was on the field doing some sort of coaching, and from an early age got a lot of practice doing it. So yeah, it helped me a lot because while I was coaching the university team, one of the coaches who was coaching professionally, uh, who used to coach at Simon Fraser, he actually recruited me as a player, Alan Koch. He would come by and watch some of our sessions and sessions that I'd be running or helping with. And so we started to create some sort of relationship while he would come up in his off seasons. And so when he got the opportunity to coach in FC Edmonton in the CPL, he gave me an opportunity. I think I was 23 or 24 at the time to be an assistant coach at the professional level. So I
Hmm.
really got exposed to you know a high level pro environment, and so it really helped me push along and get that experience. And then spent a year in the CPL there, and then I pushed on to after a year and experience of pro football. I got the opportunity to go to the Whitecaps, so I had an interview there with them. Uh, Alan was very helpful and put in encouraging me to take this opportunity. So I interviewed there. I kind of had a reputation at that time of pushing on a lot of players from local club to
Hmm.
the academy of the Whitecaps. So, there was a lot of players within the system already in the academy that I knew of or I coached, and some of the coaches that I knew. And I had an interview with Vanny, who I'd never met before, and got the job as an assistant with, at the time, a new Whitecaps 2 team because it was a brand new league. And
Right.
so got in there and haven't looked back and really enjoyed my time here ever since.
Yeah, so I wanted to get into that Whitecaps experience. So first, can we get into the first initial role and what it's like being a part of a team in their first year? Really, the whole MLS Next Pro was in that sort of weird environment where everyone was still figuring out what's going on, how are
Yeah.
we going to do this. So you're obviously just getting in a part of that, and then how your role ended up growing, and now you're a part of the first team, and how that change has been able to happen so quickly.
Yeah, it's definitely been quick for me, and a lot of it has been, maybe fortunate and good timing of where I am. But yeah, I first came in 2022, and when the second team was just starting up again. The head coach was Nick Dasovich, Canadian soccer legend, great coach, great mind of the game, and a big mentor of mine. He taught me a lot about how to run things on a day to day, how to keep good standards, and push young players to really the next level, because that's really the objective of the second team. And so it was a quick learning for me to go from the CPL, where every week it was just about 3 points trying to win, and that day to day of pushing for a result, into a league and into a team where the outcome was different. The outcome was,
Hmm.
if we can produce, two or three guys to our first team every single year, then you're doing a very good job, and you're helping that first team with uh, with filling them in with good quality players and preparing them for the next level. So it was more switching gears and going back to a development type mentality, but also at the same time, it's in a professional league. It's in a way where you can strategize and help these players develop while preparing them and introducing them to pro football at a very good level. So it was a good learning curve for me. You can kind of treat it differently than a pro team in a way, because it's young players who are just learning the ropes, and taking a lot of time to show them one-on-one on the field what their role is, one-on-one video, one-on-one just conversations and coaching to help them. So my first year was a really exciting year. We had guys like Ali Ahmed, who's helping the first team now, Simon Betcher, who we went on to sell, and he's doing very well in Denmark. Max Anker as our keeper. He's on a first team contract now. Guys who pushed on very quickly. So it was a great experience, and I stuck with it for the first part of 2022 with a new head coach, Ricardo Clark. So it was great to learn under a different coach with different ideas, and it was his first time as head coach. So he was wanting to implement and try all his new game model and thoughts. So again, it was a great development piece for me as a coach, learning under him. And that year we were able to push on Levante Johnson, who's now with the first team, who excelled at the second team level, and he's doing very well under us with the first team now. So yeah, with the second team, it was a great opportunity for me to not only work with young players, but also on top of all that work, have some time to study and understand the ways that the club works with their different departments, and how Vandy works with the first team, and watching every single training session, every single game from afar, where you're working with your own team, but also looking at what they're doing, how they
Hmm.
run things from a day to day, their methodology of training, their approach to every game. It's a you get an inside view. And so I was very fortunate, because the first team is like an open door, and they don't
Hmm.
keep a lot to themselves. They share it with the whole club, and it was a great opportunity to kind of shadow from afar how they do things before I transitioned to the first team.
Yeah, so now being a part of the first team in that assistant coach role, how has that been able to like how have you been able to look back at your role with the second team and sort of learn from your learnings there that you had and the experiences you had, and now bring that to the first team in sort of a new role, because they might not all have been able to experience that sort of second team experience of bringing these players up and developing them, but now you're sort of back into similar where you're at with the CPL, where it's the 3 points that matter at the end of
Yeah,
the day, but also you want to help bring those players from the second team, from the academy, into the first team and develop them onwards. Obviously, a big one would be Alfonso Davies. Everyone always mentions Vancouver Whitecaps, Alfonso Davies.
yeah.
So how can you continue to emulate that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, having that kind of time to look at how they do things when I wasn't there made the transition so easy, because
Hmm.
by the time I jumped into the first team, I knew how every staff worked, what their roles and responsibilities were, and how I could use my resources. Because it's a very well-oiled machine, I would say, how the club works, with every department very aligned, and the way that everyone works in their different departments, but also integrated to, like you say, have a good performance at the end of the week and get the result that you look for. So, me understanding the way that Vanny and the club, how they play on the weekend, their tactical approach, the game models. I was exposed to it right as I entered the club with the second team.
Mm.
So, I understood there was no big learning curve. I knew it right away. How they train, the different exercises they do, how they approach the meetings and the day to day with the players. So I was well prepared when the opportunity came up to come into the first team because I was exposed to all this from my time at the second team. At the same time, being in the role that I am now, it helps me working with younger players. We do have a younger squad with the first team, and even though, like you say, the results matter, we still want to take that long-term approach and develop players
Mm.
for whether they push on to play somewhere else or to improve them over the year, where you can start relying on players more and more as the season goes because they're improving and developing within your environment. So the support and the knowledge that I gained working with second team players, I try to push in and do when I coach first team players, because maybe it's the work that you do after training with individuals or units to help these younger players grow, and so hopefully you can rely on them as the season goes and as years go, because players that you sign at 19, 20, 21 years old, you hope to have a bigger roles as they grow within your environment. And I think clubs that have shown to do this have become most successful in MLS. You look at Philadelphia and the model that they've used to
Mm.
produce players within their system. You look at even Seattle and how they've used a lot of their next pro and academy players. We want to do the same. And we've kind of shown through the years that we can do this, whether it's through our academy or our second team, or even young Canadian players that we bring into our first team from other areas. Can we continue to develop them within our system, within our structure, to push on and play prominent roles with our first team? And so my experience with the second team and in training and in coaching doing this, I try to bring in the same to the first team for sure.
Hey there. If you're listening to this, you're about halfway through this week's episode. So I want to say thank you. I'm just here to quickly remind you that these episodes are free. They're free to watch, free to listen to, and all I ask in return is for you to follow, maybe like, share, comment, or even leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting platform. That's enough from me though. I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode, and I'll see you in the next one. And then I wanted to get into this season. So obviously, strong start from the first team. You've had with Vancouver in the last few years, really strong in terms of the Canadian environment, where you're consistently the top team in Canada, but struggling sort of in terms of you're hitting playoffs, but not necessarily where I think the club wants to be. So now with the strong start this season, and I think in the last sort of 2 seasons, you've been able to see that development of players like Brian White really grow into the team and become strong presences, not only in terms of the team, but in the league itself, and becoming some of the best players in the league. So how have you guys been able to approach this year to really go all out and go and take that next step?
Yeah, it's a really talented group we have this year, and a lot of kudos goes out to obviously the players for their performances so far, but also the work that was done in the off season by the club to keep a core group
Mm.
together from last season, which was important, but also bring in key additions that have really helped us this season. You look at the guys that have brought in have made instant impacts to the team. So I think the way the roster was built through upper management and everyone through the club has really helped us try to, as you say, push on this year and aim for higher success within the league. Obviously, take pride in the Canadian Championship and the success that the club's had in it in recent times. So we want to continue to do so with that. But it's a group that we're very confident in our abilities, and we know that whatever team we face each weekend, we have a group that can compete, whether we're home or away. And I think we're one of the, if not the best, team for results away from home over the last year. I want to say since maybe last summer. So yeah, it's a group that has a lot of potential, and we're working every week to continue to grow it with the tactical understanding, how the group gels, how it can slightly modify in the way we attack each week through different ways against different oppositions, and how we continue to be solid defensively. So I think we'll hope to continually grow as the year goes on, but we've had an excellent start with the results we've had. But more importantly, the performances we've had, we've been very happy with it. And players are really a tight knit group, and the team as a whole with the staff is a really tight knit group, and everyone plays their part. And even trainings have been incredibly intense and very positive. So yeah, it's been very, very positive so far, and we just hope to sustain it and even grow it further. So when those important games come, which they will over the next few months in Canadian Championship knockout games, Leagues Cup, MLS playoff games, that we can produce those top performances that we know we have the ability to do, and hopefully get results that can take us to good levels.
You mentioned the role that different people have within the club. Obviously, the players, you have your front office staff, the coaches. Everyone has their own position and their own way of doing things in order for the club to be as successful as possible. Can we get into your role currently and maybe a day in the life of Brendan? What does that look like on a
Yeah,
on a? We can do like a training day in the week as well as maybe a match day.
yeah, sure. Um, yeah, so I guess I arrive at the facility between 6 or 7 in the morning. We have, I guess, an hour for me to take my own time to tidy up different things with what we're doing in the session, little details of organization of that. Watch a bit of video maybe of the previous day's session, or maybe the opposition we play in the week, and then or reviewing the game from the weekend previous. And then we all get together as a technical staff, and we meet in the mornings mostly to discuss what we would go over as a group, as the team. With the video meeting that we have in the morning, we have a lot of opportunities, whether it's with the whole team as a collective or in different units, whether it's defensive group, attacking group, midfield group, or even individuals that we plan to meet with before the session, to show whether it's a review of our game on the weekend, a preview of the opposition we're about to play, or simply going over things related to set pieces, or principles that we're trying to go by for our game model. So once we've kind of met and we confirm all of that and go over the session plan for the day one final time and get updates from medical staff and things like this, we go and we have these meetings. For myself, I take charge of the opposition meetings a lot of the time with a lot of help. We all work together with these things, but I would lead those ones. And we work as a core group with our video analysts, our technical staff to prepare that. Then after that, I'd head out to set up the pitch, execute the training session as a group. After the practice, we come in, we have lunch together, and then it starts again, planning for the next day, whether it's a practice or game. We review the practice, how it went, watch a lot of it, integrate with the second team about how we're going to approach the next day, planning sessions, watching tape of the games, whether it's the first or second team, watching tape of certain individuals, maybe meeting with certain individuals, and then regrouping the next morning again. So it's a fun cycle that's consistent, but also every day is something different. The opposition and the challenges that may present us on the weekend through who we play, or the personnel that we have for a certain week. So things are always different, and different challenges come up. And as a group, we work very well together to try and solve these and plan. So when the weekend comes on the Saturday, everyone is clear with what their role and responsibilities are, and we go and we head out to the game. So, by the time the match day happens, my role is not as I would say impactful because all the work is done by the Saturday. We've gone through our approach to the game, the tactics that we want to emphasize, the opposition, and presenting what challenges and what opportunities they may pose, the set pieces, and what we're going to try on the weekend. So by the time the day hits of the game, everybody should know what that role is, and we go in and execute it, and maybe adjust things on the fly as we go. But a lot of the work is done more in the week than the actual game day.
I've added this next question quite recently. I've only asked the last few guests, but I want to know what you believe is your greatest asset. So that can be a mindset, a skill, an attribute, something, and this can be either within the club in the team setting or just in your personal life. But I want to hear what do you have as in your opinion is your greatest asset?
Oof, that's a good question. I would have said probably 5 years ago that it was my leading of training sessions. I thought as a youth coach, that was my strength, my coaching on the field. And I want to say now that probably something that's got me to where I am. I'll keep it simple. I would say it's just my understanding and knowledge of the league or the level in which I'm coaching at. So when I was coaching the second team, I can confidently say that I knew the strengths, the weaknesses, the ability of every player on our team, but also of most players in the league in Next Pro and the team we're playing on the weekend, the players within the academy, and who was kind of on the come up and coming through our club. So I keep it simple and say my knowledge and understanding of the players in which I'm coaching and the kind of the league that I'm in. In the CPL, I can confidently say I knew every single player in the league and what they were good at and what they weren't so good at, and how we could kind of use that to try and get a result on the weekend. And I think it's the same now in the MLS. I watch a lot of games. I watch a lot of football, whether it's locally or in MLS. And so I think just taking that time to watch and understand what each player brings is very useful in my role because a lot of the times my role is organizing the team that we're playing against. So in training, it's like the sparring group that is maybe the Seattle Sounders on the weekend and how they play. So getting in the mind of the club and watching previous games, how they work and which players they have. So yeah, I would say that right now. And hopefully it evolves to something else because I want to continually grow and be a coach that's well versed and can do many different things. So hoping to improve on that. But for right now, I would say simply that, just the knowledge of the different players and teams around me.
I think you nailed it. It's almost like being I'm a younger sibling, so I have an older brother, and he was 4 years older. So whatever he did, I always learned from him. Like if he did something my parents didn't like, I kept like a mental note of okay, try to don't do that, do this, do that, and he sort of made the mistakes for me, and I was able to pick up on them. And I think
Yeah.
as an assistant coach role, you almost have that same sort of thing where you see what happens on the field, and you can kind of have a person point of view on what goes on within the club, within your play style, every little thing. And you can kind of pick up on those points and learn from them. And I think that's
Yeah.
sort of the skill set that you mentioned there.
Yeah, 100%. That's it. And even from when I was a youth coach in, Mountain United U16 boys, I knew every local player at the U16 age group around the area and which ones I could potentially bring in if I pushed a player on to the Whitecaps Academy or something like this. So it's something I've tried to bring along everywhere I go. It's just that understanding and knowledge, and then making use of it when you need to.
Spot on. All right, we'll get into the next one here. The beautiful game, soccer as a whole, or football, whatever you call it. It's known to have its highs and lows, like a roller coaster. You have these extreme highs during wins and strong runs, and then you can have these lows where you can't pick up on a win, or everything just seems to be going wrong. So I wanted to hear in your life, not necessarily your career, but just in general, what is an extreme, not necessarily extreme low, but a low that you've had that you'd be able to look back on now and use that as a learning and growth period for the future, but also for your present day work?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say for me, firstly, I'm very fortunate to have been born and raised in a place like Canada, where when you look around the world and something's going on, it's a lot nicer and a better life of quality of life here than some places in the world. So I'm very fortunate with that I don't have to deal with challenges that some kids have being brought up. And you hear some incredible stories of players that you work with and how they've got to where they are. So I understand that I've had a very fortunate life because of where I've been brought up, here in BC. But I would say, just to your question, like a low from me, especially when you're coaching. When I was still a very young coach and coaching, young kids, and you don't get a lot of support or the resources that you can imagine that I have now with a great club like the Whitecaps. You'd have U16 boys team, and it would be you and them, and you have no other coaches with you. You're there on a Thursday night, it's pouring rain, and you're thinking, what am I doing with my life here? Like, you have these pressures of people saying you should get a real job, coaching is not a real thing, just give it up already. You need to do something with your life and your degree and things like this, and you're not making the most money, and but at the end of the day, even though it's a low and you get all these pressures, I always enjoyed it. I always wanted to be on the pitch. I always love it, and I've never really seen it as a job. So I'm glad that I stuck with it, and with these pressures of, you should be in a normal job. Like, you look around and you have normal, people with regular 9 to 5 jobs. Why aren't you doing this? Well, I've been very fortunate to have the opportunities that I've had, but also I've always had this belief that I can do something truly special and important with working with young players. And in soccer, you can teach a lot of life lessons. So seeing players develop and grow, and some of the young kids that I used to coach, seeing them now and how they've progressed, not only as footballers, but as mature young men
Mm.
and women. So yeah, it's definitely a low moment when you're coaching at a lower level, and you're not having that success or making much money, or getting much attention or appreciation towards you. But if you have that belief and confidence that what you're doing is very good, and also having that constant desire to get better and grow and learn from others around you, that hopefully you have these opportunities that arise and come up. I never expected to get the opportunities that I have now, with going to places like Edmonton and coaching in a professional environment with the second team, with the Whitecaps, and the first team now. I never anticipated to have this, because I'm still very young, and uh, but I've been very fortunate to have these, and just wanted to be as prepared as possible when these opportunities did come. So yeah, it's these moments are ones that define you, and I'm looking back very glad, but grateful that I stuck with it and stuck to coaching, even when it wasn't the most, I guess, beautiful looking thing. It was more,
Mm.
the rainy 8:30 nighttime training sessions on a Thursday night, where you're driving around with a ball bag and a stack of cones and changing jackets to go from one team to the other and things like this. So I'm glad it happened, because it was a good experience for me in the end.
And if we have a listener, someone listening in on today's episode, and they sort of hear your journey and your personal life story, and they might be inspired by that, or they might be on a similar journey. Do you have advice for someone in that position?
Yeah, I mean, like I just said, keep sticking with it, and
Mm.
enjoy every moment, because I still to this day don't see coaching as a job. There's a lot worse things where I'm going and having to get up and do something that I don't enjoy doing. And so do what you love, do what you enjoy, because I would have never taken the extra time and effort to not only learn about the game, but also, you know, meet the people that I've met within the game if I didn't have that true love for it. So, yeah, just do what you enjoy doing and treat it as a hobby, because that's when you get the most out of it, and that's when you really can create and become your best self because you're doing what you love. So yeah, stick with it. Don't give up on these things, and stick with whatever you love doing, and keep pursuing it, because it's important to be happy and get up and want to do something purposeful with your life every day.
You mentioned how some of the opportunities that have come up are quite surprising, and you would have never really expected them, especially at your age. So if we go now, we go 5 to 10 years in the future, depending on if you're a sort of future-minded person or not. But where do you think Brendan will be in 5 to 10 years? Do you have an idea, or is it a more general concept?
I hope I'm on a field somewhere. To be honest, I
There we
hope
go.
I'm not stuck in an office. Doing things all day. I hope I'm on the field, because every day that's what I live for. All the watching of games on the computer and the work that you do is so you can get out on the field and do something with it every day, and that's what I love most. So in 5 years' time, whatever level I'm coaching at, I hope it's or whatever I'm doing, I hope it's on a field somewhere, working with players and coaching, because that's what I enjoy most. And so yeah, I look forward to that, and hopefully I stick with it, and I'm coaching at a good level like I am now. I'm loving what I'm doing, and hopefully in 5 years' time I'm doing the same. So simple as that.
Yep, doing what you love, like you mentioned. I can't agree with it more. We'll wrap up here with some quick fire questions. So the first one, what was your favorite club team growing up? Who did you support?
Glasgow Celtic. My family all loved them. I have a few relatives with tattoos of the club badge and everything, so I had no choice. That was the team growing up where we watched a lot of, and so I follow a little bit, not as much because I'm so into the MLS more than anything, but I try to follow along a little bit when I can.
Yeah, Celtic, unreal. I have the scarf right there. One of
Oh
the
yeah,
best
beauty.
experiences that
Yeah.
I've been able to go and see the stadium. It was phenomenal. Do you have a favorite quote or saying, something a phrase that you live by?
I don't have anything in particular that I would say I live by. Um, the head coach I work with, Vanni Sartini, who I've learned so much from, and is a true mentor to me, and coach educator. He's got a lot of good ones, and he always brings them out at different times. So actually, let me see. I write down all of them all the time. So he did a good
Well,
one the other week. He said,
all
"Let me
right,
see if
let's
I
hear
can
it.
find it."
No
Here we
worries. Take
go.
your time.
I think it was a Vince Lombardi one. Said, "Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence." So that's one I got down recently. That I thought that was pretty damn good. So Vince Lombardi, I'll say that one for everyone now.
So that's perfect. If someone's visiting Vancouver, what are some top recommendations? I'm a big foodie, so I need to know the top food spots in Vancouver.
Ooh, that's a good question. I get a lot of stick from some of the staff from the club because I'm Canadian, so they say you don't have the European taste like some others would. So not a lot of people trust my opinions on food, but especially because I'm drinking Tim Hortons coffee and all this. But let me think. I'm a North Shore guy, so one place that not a lot of people know about, but since I'm a big fish and chips kind of guy, it's called the Crab Shack. It's a place just off the water when you go over the bridge on your way to Deep Cove. It's a beautiful little area. It's not the biggest. You kind of have to find it, but some of the best fish and chips you can find. And in Vancouver, we love our seafood, so that's a good one to check out.
Fish and chips, and then you got to head over to BC Place if there's a game on.
Yes, exactly.
Do you read? Do you have a favorite book? Something to recommend?
Yeah, I read a lot of autobiographies. To be honest, that's the most the most kind of books I read is different people within the game, mostly in soccer, but sometimes leaders in all different fields about their different experiences. Favorite book, I'm reading one right now, Be Useful, from Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is
Okay.
pretty good. I'm enjoying that, but of all time, that's a tough one. I read one a few years ago, and I'll be biased because I just felt it was so relevant to the role I'm in now as an assistant coach. It was called Intensity. It was by the Liverpool assistant coach, Pep Linders, I think his name was.
Ah, yes.
And he kind of goes through week by week, month by month, his role and what he does and how he did it on the Liverpool. It was one of their most successful seasons, and I really, really enjoyed that one. I actually read it twice. I loved it so much. So that's a good one to check out for coaches or people who are fans of the game or things like this. So
Spot on. Do you have it's always a difficult question because football sort of becomes our life. Everything we do revolves around it. But do you have a favorite hobby to maybe if you have a break or you have a chance to do something else, do you have something to just break up your time?
don't have a lot of time for hobbies because I watch a lot of soccer, but I would say running. I love running.
Hmm.
There's a lot of good trails around the Lower Mainland that I like going around. It kind of helps me switch off and take my mind off things. I like to do it the day of the game, actually, the morning of the game, to just kind of reset and refresh. So that's a big hobby I've taken up since COVID because I keeps me in good shape and keeps me kind of mentally refreshed and able to escape kind of the everything else going on.
And the last one here, if you could sit down with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why? To have a meal with them, chat, and it can be we sort of changed the question. It can be one person football, soccer related, and one just general, whoever you'd like.
Ooh, uh, if it wasn't soccer related, it'd probably be uh, my grandmother. She passed away when I was very young and never really got a chance. But I hear so many stories about her when I went over to Ireland, all that she did when and she came over here. I love learning about how I got here and my family history and things like this. If it was a footballing person, probably Johan Cruyff. He was a visionary in so many different ways, and I've read a lot about him and him as a player, but also as a coach. And I just have so many questions to ask as a football nerd about a lot of different things. So yeah, he would be the football related one.
All right, Brendan, I appreciate your time. It was a good conversation. Do you have any last words, and then we can wrap things up?
No, thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate you having me on, and all the best. I'm a big fan of it. I've watched a bunch of different episodes with different soccer related minds of the game and got a lot out of it. So thanks for what you're doing and bringing attention to the game here in Canada too.
Of course, no, I appreciate it. Appreciate your time. It was great once again, and we'll speak soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chad.